You are not broken. You are tired. You are tested. You are under pressure. And pressure does not destroy strong people. It reveals them. This audiobook is not about motivation. It is about refusal. Refusal to quit. Refusal to weaken. Refusal to surrender control of your mind to fear, pain, or distraction. Life will hit you again. That is guaranteed. What is not guaranteed is whether you stay standing. By the end of this audiobook, you will understand one truth clearly. Nothing can break a person who decides to remain unbroken. Chapter 1. Stop asking why me. Pain enters your life without knocking. No warning. No apology. And the first thought most people have is the most dangerous one. Why me? That question feels natural. It feels human. It feels justified. But it is also the fastest way to give your power away. Because the moment you ask why me, you position yourself as a victim of circumstance instead of the owner of response. You stop acting. You start negotiating with reality. And reality does not negotiate. You have a choice. You always have a choice. That's the key. Pain is not personal. It feels personal, but it isn't. It is universal. Everyone you admire has been hit. Everyone you respect has been tested. Everyone who looks strong now once stood exactly where you are, confused, frustrated, and hurting. The difference is not luck. It is interpretation. Weak minds personalize pain. Strong minds analyze it. Pain is information. Pain is training. Pain is temporary. Say it again. Pain is information. Pain is training. Pain is temporary. When something goes wrong, when life hits you, when plans collapse, most people ask the wrong question. They ask, why is this happening to me? That question has no useful answer. Even if you found the answer, it would change nothing. It would not fix the situation. It would not remove the pain. It would not move you forward. It only keeps you stuck. Strong people ask a different question. What now? That question is power. That question puts you back in control. What now means action. What now means adaptation. What now means responsibility. You don't need their permission to move forward. You don't need life's approval to adjust course. You have a choice. Here is the hard truth most people avoid. Pain is not an interruption of life. Pain is part of life. Once you accept that, you stop being surprised by hardship. You stop wasting energy on resentment. You stop waiting for fairness. Fairness is not coming. Ease is not guaranteed. Comfort is not promised. That's not pessimism. That's clarity. And clarity creates strength. Most people suffer twice. Once from the event itself, and once from their resistance to it. They argue with reality in their head. They replay the moment. They wish it hadn't happened. They fantasize about a different past. That mental resistance drains energy. It weakens focus. It delays recovery. Strong people don't do that. They accept fast. They adapt faster. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is speed. The faster you accept what is, the faster you can work on what's next. You have a choice. Look at your behavior when pain shows up. Do you slow down? Do you withdraw? Do you complain internally or externally? Complaining feels like relief, but it's actually surrender. Every complaint is a small confession of powerlessness. It says, "This controls me." That's not who you are becoming. It's not about the pain. It's about discipline. Discipline of thought. Discipline of response. Discipline of behavior. You don't control what happens. You control what you do next. That's the key. Pain is a signal. It tells you something needs attention, adjustment, or endurance. Strong people listen to the signal without obeying the discomfort. They don't panic. They don't dramatize. They don't collapse. They gather data. Ask yourself better questions. What is this teaching me? What skill is being developed right now? What weakness is being exposed? Pain reveals gaps. In habits, in preparation, in mindset. That's valuable information if you're disciplined enough to use it. Pain is information. Pain is training. Pain is temporary. Most people want pain to disappear before they move. Strong people move through pain. They don't wait to feel better. They don't need perfect conditions. They act anyway. You have a choice. Let's talk about responsibility, because this is where many people get uncomfortable. Responsibility does not mean blame. It means ownership. You may not be responsible for what happened, but you are responsible for what happens next. The moment you fully accept that, something shifts. You stop asking for sympathy. You stop looking for validation. You stop needing agreement. You don't need their permission. You become dangerous, in a good way, because now your progress is no longer dependent on circumstances. It's dependent on discipline. And discipline outlasts emotion every time. Think about this clearly. Every time you say, "Why me?" you are delaying action. Every delay compounds cost. Time passes either way. Strong people respect time too much to waste it on questions that lead nowhere. They ask functional questions. Actionable questions. What must I do today? What can I control right now? What is the next discipline step? That's how resilience is built. Not by inspiration, by repetition. You do not rise to motivation. You fall to your standards. And your standard starts with how you interpret pain. Pain is not proof you're failing. It's proof you're engaged. If you weren't trying, you wouldn't feel resistance. If you weren't pushing, you wouldn't feel pressure. Pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is the environment where strength is formed. You have a choice. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop asking, "Why me?" Stop replaying the moment that hurt you. Stop expecting life to be gentle. Those habits weaken you. Here's what you must start doing. Start asking, "What now?" Start extracting lessons instead of emotions. Start moving forward before you feel ready. That's discipline. And discipline replaces weakness. Every time pain hits and you respond with action instead of emotion, you rewire your identity. You stop seeing yourself as fragile. You start seeing yourself as capable. That identity compounds. Over time, pain loses its intimidation factor. Not because it disappears, but because you've proven you can function under it. That's what unbroken means. Not untouched. Not unharmed. Unbroken. It means you bend, but you do not collapse. You absorb impact and keep direction. Say it clearly. I do not need comfort to execute. I do not need answers to act. I do not need permission to continue. You have a choice. Pain will return. That's guaranteed. The question is not whether you'll feel it again. The question is whether you'll waste time asking the wrong question. Stop asking, "Why me?" Start asking, "What now?" Because what now builds strength. What now creates momentum. What now turns suffering into progress. Pain is information. Pain is training. Pain is temporary. Lock that in. You are not here to be protected from life. You are here to be shaped by it. And the way you respond to pain determines what shape you take. Weakness is not pain. Weakness is avoidance. Discipline is facing what hurts and moving anyway. That's the foundation. That's the standard. That's how the unbroken think. You've stopped personalizing pain. You've reclaimed your power. You've learned to replace "why me" with "what now?" Now it's time to understand the most dangerous illusion that keeps people stuck waiting. Chapter 2. Accept that no one is coming. There is a moment in every person's life when something quietly breaks. Not a bone. Not a relationship. An illusion. The illusion that someone is coming to save you. Most people never notice when this illusion forms. It starts early. Parents fix problems. Teachers guide. Systems catch mistakes. And slowly, unconsciously, the mind learns a dangerous habit. Waiting. Waiting for help. Waiting for permission. Waiting for the right time. Waiting for someone else to step in and make it easier. That habit will destroy your momentum. Because here is the truth, stated clearly and without comfort. No one is coming. Not to rescue you. Not to push you. Not to force you into discipline. Not to live your life for you. You have a choice. That's the key. The most dangerous habit a person can form is waiting for rescue. Waiting feels safe. Waiting feels responsible. Waiting feels patient. But waiting is often just fear in disguise. Fear of responsibility. Fear of failure. Fear of owning the outcome. Strong people do not wait to be saved. They decide to save themselves. Self-rescue is the only rescue. Say it again. Self-rescue is the only rescue. Look honestly at your own behavior. How many times have you delayed action because you thought help would arrive? A message, an opportunity, a sign, a person. How many times have you said, once things calm down, or once someone helps me, or once I feel supported? That delay is not harmless. Every time you wait for external rescue, you weaken your internal authority. You teach your mind that action depends on permission. You don't need their permission. Waiting transfers control. Action restores it. That's the key. Let's be clear about something important. Accepting that no one is coming is not pessimistic. It's empowering. Because the moment you stop expecting rescue, you stop being disappointed. You stop feeling abandoned. You stop feeling overlooked. You stop wasting emotional energy on expectations that were never promised. And you start building something far more reliable. Self-trust. Most people change only after help fails to arrive. Think about real-world transformation. People don't usually change when things are comfortable. They change when the backup plan disappears. When the job doesn't come back. When the relationship ends. When the support system is gone. That moment hurts. But it also clarifies. It forces a decision. Either collapse. Or stand up and become the support you were waiting for. You have a choice. Here's the psychological trap. Waiting feels like hope. But it often produces helplessness. Because when you wait, you rehearse passivity. You sit. You scroll. You distract. You complain. And slowly, confidence erodes. Not because you're incapable, but because you're inactive. Action creates belief. Not the other way around. Strong people don't wait until they believe in themselves. They act and belief follows. That's discipline. It's not about motivation. It's about ownership. Ownership of your habits. Ownership of your schedule. Ownership of your future. No one is coming to manage those things for you. And that realization is not a threat. It's a release. Because if no one is coming to save you, then no one is coming to stop you either. You don't need their permission. Let that sink in. No one is watching closely enough to approve every move you make. No one is grading your effort the way you imagine. No one is waiting to give you a green light. You decide. Most people secretly want a savior because it removes responsibility. If someone else fixes it, you don't have to risk failure. But that safety is expensive. It costs you growth. It costs you momentum. It costs you self-respect. Strong people pay a different price. They pay the price of discomfort up front. They accept uncertainty. They accept accountability. And in return, they gain control. Self-rescue is the only rescue. Look at the behaviors that signal waiting. You keep explaining your situation instead of changing it. You keep seeking reassurance instead of taking steps. You keep researching instead of executing. Information becomes avoidance when it replaces action. It's not about lack of knowledge. It's about discipline. Discipline means acting without guarantees. Discipline means moving without applause. Discipline means doing the work even when no one notices. That's the key. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop waiting to feel supported. Stop waiting for confidence to appear. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Those things rarely arrive before action. Here's what you must start doing. Start acting as if no one is coming, because they aren't. Start building routines that do not rely on mood or encouragement. Start showing up for yourself consistently. That consistency rewires identity. You stop seeing yourself as dependent. You start seeing yourself as reliable. That shift is powerful. Most people are not lazy. They are dependent. Dependent on mood. Dependent on motivation. Dependent on validation. Strong people cut that dependency. They create structure. Structure replaces hope. Structure replaces waiting. Structure replaces excuses. You don't wake up asking, "Who will help me today?" You wake up asking, "What must be done?" That question changes everything. Self-rescue is not dramatic. It's quiet. It looks like getting up when you don't want to. It looks like doing the boring work. It looks like making progress without witnesses. And over time, something shifts. You stop feeling alone. Not because people show up, but because you've learned to stand on your own. You trust yourself. That trust is unshakable, because it's built on evidence. Evidence of follow-through. Evidence of discipline. You have a choice. You can keep waiting, rehearsing disappointment. Or you can accept the truth and move forward with clarity. No one is coming to push you, so you push yourself. No one is coming to save you, so you build strength. No one is coming to give you permission, so you take it. That's the mindset of the unbroken. They don't resent reality. They don't dramatize solitude. They use it. They become self-led. And once you lead yourself, you are no longer fragile. You become difficult to stop. Self-rescue is the only rescue. Lock that in. Waiting weakens you. Action sharpens you. Waiting asks for help. Action builds capacity. Waiting hopes for change. Action forces it. This is not about being alone forever. It's about being strong enough to move even when you are. And once you move, things tend to follow. Opportunities respect motion. Confidence follows effort. Momentum rewards consistency. But none of it starts until you stop waiting. You have a choice. Accept the truth. No one is coming. And because of that, everything is possible. You've stopped waiting for rescue. You've reclaimed responsibility. You've learned to stand without support. Now it's time to master the force that carries you forward on the hardest days. Chapter 3. Discipline is stronger than motivation. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. That distinction matters more than most people realize. Motivation rises and falls. It responds to mood, sleep, praise, weather, and circumstance. It is unreliable by design. Discipline does not care how you feel. Discipline functions regardless. That's the key. Most people build their lives on motivation and then wonder why everything collapses when motivation disappears. They say, "I'll do it when I feel ready." They say, "I just need to get motivated again." They say, "Once I'm inspired, I'll start." And they stay stuck. Because motivation is a spark. Discipline is a system. You have a choice. You can keep waiting for emotional energy to show up. or you can build a structure that carries you forward even on low days. The unbroken choose structure. Motivation feels powerful in the beginning. It's loud. It's exciting. It makes promises. But motivation is temporary. It fades when things get boring. It disappears when results are slow. It vanishes under stress. Discipline remains. Discipline is quiet. Discipline is repetitive. Discipline does not negotiate. And because of that, discipline wins. It's not about enthusiasm. It's about execution. That's the key. Psychologically, motivation is tied to reward anticipation. Your brain gets excited about outcomes. But discipline is tied to identity and routine. It is about who you are and what you do consistently. That's why disciplined people don't ask themselves every day whether they feel like acting. They already decided. Decision removes friction. Routine removes resistance. Most people exhaust themselves by redeciding every day. Should I work out today? Should I focus today? Should I stay consistent today? That constant negotiation drains energy. Strong people remove the question. They decide once. And then they follow the system. You don't need their permission to build that system. You need clarity. Here's the truth most people avoid. If your progress depends on how you feel, you will lose momentum regularly. If your progress depends on structure, you will move forward even when you're tired. The unbroken understand this early. They do not rely on willpower. They design their environment. They build habits that trigger action automatically. Same time, same place, same behavior. That repetition trains the nervous system. Eventually, action becomes default. That's discipline. Say this clearly. I do not need to feel ready. I move anyway. Say it again. I do not need to feel ready. I move anyway. That sentence removes excuses. Because ready is a feeling. And feelings are unreliable. Discipline replaces feeling with commitment. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. Look at where motivation fails you most. When you're tired. When you're stressed. When results don't show quickly. That's exactly when discipline matters most. Anyone can act when they feel inspired. Very few can act when they don't. That's the separator. Strong people are not more motivated. They are more disciplined. They expect resistance. They plan for low-energy days. They don't pretend every day will feel good. They build systems that assume it won't. That's the key. Let's talk about systems. A system is a set of rules you follow regardless of emotion. Not goals. Rules. Goals are outcomes. Rules are behaviors. I want to be fit is a goal. I train at 6 a.m. 4 days a week is a rule. Rules remove debate. You don't wake up asking, do I want to? You wake up knowing, this is what I do. That identity shift is powerful. You stop being someone who tries. You become someone who executes. You have a choice. You can keep chasing motivation, or you can build discipline. Chasing motivation is reactive. Building discipline is proactive. Motivation waits. Discipline acts. And discipline compounds. Small disciplined actions done daily beat intense motivated bursts every time. Intensity burns out. Consistency builds dominance. That's not opinion. That's behavior science. Your brain adapts to repetition. What you do consistently becomes easier over time. What you avoid becomes harder. Discipline feels heavy at first. Then it feels normal. Then it feels necessary. That's the progression. Most people quit before the shift happens. They say discipline is too hard. But discipline is only hard at the beginning. What's truly hard is inconsistency. Starting over repeatedly. Feeling guilty. Feeling behind. That cycle exhausts people. Discipline breaks it. You don't need their permission to break it. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop waiting to feel motivated. Stop designing your schedule around comfort. Stop giving emotion the final vote. Those habits weaken you. Here's what you must start doing. Start acting based on rules. Start creating non-negotiable routines. Start showing up even when energy is low. Especially when energy is low. Because those are the days that matter most. Anyone can perform on a good day. Only disciplined people perform on bad days. That's the key. Discipline is not punishment. It's protection. It protects you from your own inconsistency. It protects your future from your present moods. When you rely on discipline, you stop being surprised by your own behavior. You trust yourself. That trust is built through evidence. Evidence that you act even when it's uncomfortable. That evidence changes how you see yourself. You stop saying, "I hope I can." You start saying, "I know I will." That certainty is calm. It's not emotional. It's grounded. The unbroken don't hype themselves up every day. They just execute. They remove drama from progress. They understand that most success is boring. Same actions. Same effort. Same discipline. Over and over. That's how systems win. Say it again. I do not need to feel ready. I move anyway. That sentence should be automatic. When resistance shows up, you don't debate it. You move. When doubt shows up, you don't analyze it. You move. When motivation disappears, you don't stop. You move. Movement breaks hesitation. Action silences excuses. That's discipline. It's not about perfection. It's about consistency. You will miss days. You will slip. Discipline is not about never failing. It's about returning without drama. No shame spirals. No quitting. No identity collapse. You adjust and continue. That's the mindset of the unbroken. They don't rely on emotion to carry them. They rely on structure. And structure creates freedom. Because once discipline is in place, progress becomes predictable. You don't guess. You don't hope. You execute. You have a choice. You can keep letting motivation decide your effort. Or you can decide once and let discipline carry you. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a skill. Skills can be trained. And once trained, they don't disappear when things get hard. That's the foundation of strength. You've learned why motivation fails. You've learned how discipline replaces it. You've learned to move without feeling ready. Now it's time to master the most powerful influence on your discipline. The voice in your head. Chapter 4. Control the inner voice or be controlled by it. There is a voice in your head that never stops talking. It speaks before you act. It speaks when you hesitate. It speaks when things get hard. And whether you realize it or not, that voice is running your life. Not your circumstances. Not your past. Not other people. Your inner voice. That's the key. Every action you take is preceded by a sentence you say to yourself. Every delay is justified internally before it shows up externally. Every excuse begins as quiet self-talk. If you do not control that voice, it will control you. You have a choice. Most people believe their inner voice is just who they are. They think it's automatic. They think it's honest. It's neither. Your inner voice is trained behavior. It is a habit. And like any habit, it can be reshaped, or it can be left to sabotage you. Weak self-talk creates hesitation. Decisive self-talk creates action. That difference decides outcomes. Listen carefully to how most people talk to themselves under pressure. I'm not ready. This is too much. I'll start tomorrow. I don't feel like it. Those sentences feel harmless. They feel reasonable. They are not. They are commands. Your nervous system listens to every word you repeat internally. Your body obeys. That's psychology, not motivation. The brain does not distinguish between a joke and a belief when repetition is involved. Repeated thoughts become instructions. That's the key. Strong people are not immune to doubt. They are disciplined in how they respond to it. They do not let the inner voice ramble unchecked. They interrupt it. They replace it. They command it. They speak strength before they feel it. Say it clearly. I speak strength before I feel it. Say it again. I speak strength before I feel it. Most people wait to feel confident before they act. Strong people act in a way that produces confidence. Confidence is not the cause. It is the result. And the result begins with self-talk. You have a choice. You can let your inner voice default to fear and comfort, or you can train it to default to clarity and command. Let's be direct. Your inner voice is not always telling the truth. It is often trying to protect you from discomfort, but comfort is not your goal. Growth is. And growth requires a different language. Weak self-talk sounds like concern, but it produces delay. Strong self-talk sounds firm, and it produces movement. It's not about how I feel. It's about what I do. That's not an option. Move. Non-negotiable. That's discipline. It's not about positivity. It's about precision. Positive affirmations without action are useless. Negative self-talk with repetition is destructive. Disciplined self-talk is neutral and directive. It tells you what happens next. You don't need their permission to speak to yourself with authority. Here's the psychological trap. When pain shows up, the inner voice tries to narrate it. This hurts. This isn't fair. This means something is wrong. That narration amplifies suffering. Pain plus interpretation becomes overwhelm. Strong people reduce interpretation. They shorten the internal dialogue. They don't argue with reality. They give instructions. Breathe. Stand up. Do the next thing. That's it. That simplicity is powerful. It prevents spirals. Most mental collapse happens because people let the inner voice run unchecked. It stacks thoughts. One negative thought triggers another. Then another. Then another. Soon, action feels impossible. Not because it is, but because the internal noise is too loud. Discipline quiets the noise. Not by silence, but by command. That's the key. You must stop narrating your struggle. Stop explaining your pain to yourself. Stop replaying conversations. Stop justifying hesitation. Those behaviors drain focus. Here's what you must start doing. Start giving yourself clear, short instructions. Start using language that leads to action. Start speaking to yourself the way a calm, disciplined coach would. Not emotional. Not cruel. Direct. Do it anyway. Stay with it. Next step. Those phrases change behavior. You have a choice. You can let emotions write the script, or you can write it yourself. And make no mistake, someone is always writing it. If it's not you, it's fear. If it's not discipline, it's impulse. The unbroken choose discipline. They understand that the inner voice is a tool, and tools must be trained. Here's a practical instruction. When resistance shows up, and it will, do not ask yourself questions. Questions invite debate. Do I feel like this? Is this worth it? What if it doesn't work? Those questions weaken resolve. Instead, give statements. This is happening. This is required. Move. Statements close the loop. That's discipline. Another instruction. Catch exaggeration. The inner voice loves extremes. This is unbearable. I always fail. I'll never get there. Those are lies dressed as emotion. Strong people correct exaggeration immediately. This is uncomfortable, not unbearable. This is one setback, not my identity. This is progress, even if it's slow. Correction restores control. You don't need their permission to correct yourself. That's the key. Remember this. Your inner voice sets your pace. If it's weak, you slow down. If it's decisive, you move. Pain will visit either way. The difference is what it does to you. Pain plus weak self-talk softens you. Pain plus disciplined self-talk sharpens you. Pain is neutral. The voice decides the outcome. Say it again. I speak strength before I feel it. That sentence matters most when you least believe it. Because belief follows action, not the other way around. You do not wait for courage to speak firmly. You speak firmly and courage follows. You have a choice. Here's another truth most people avoid. Your inner voice becomes what you tolerate. If you tolerate excuses, you'll hear more excuses. If you tolerate discipline, discipline becomes normal. Tolerance trains identity. Strong people do not tolerate weak internal language. They cut it off early. Not with anger. With clarity. No, that's not useful. Focus. That's it. No drama. Just direction. The goal is not to eliminate thought. The goal is to lead it. Leadership starts internally. If you cannot lead your own thoughts, you will always be reactive. Reactive people chase motivation. Proactive people enforce discipline. And discipline always starts with words. Internal words. You speak to yourself more than anyone else ever will. Make those words count. Make them actionable. Make them disciplined. Because every time you speak strength before you feel it, you train your nervous system to move without permission. You don't need their permission. You don't need reassurance. You need command. That's how the unbroken think. They do not let the inner voice complain unchecked. They do not let doubt narrate the day. They decide the tone. From forward. You've learned that your inner voice is not neutral. You've learned how weak self-talk delays action. You've learned to speak strength before you feel it. Now it's time to take that discipline into the real world, where pain does not wait for permission. Chapter 5. Learn to function while it hurts. Pain does not wait for your permission. It shows up unannounced. It interrupts plans. It ignores schedules. And most people make the same mistake when pain arrives. They stop. They wait to feel better. They wait for clarity. They wait for relief. And while they wait, progress dies. That's the key. Waiting to feel better delays progress indefinitely. Because feeling better is not guaranteed. Comfort is not promised. Relief is not on a schedule. But action is always available. You have a choice. You can pause your life every time discomfort appears. Or you can learn to function while it hurts. The unbroken choose the second option. They understand a hard truth early. Life does not reward readiness. It rewards movement. Most people believe they need to be okay before they act. Strong people act so they can become okay. That reversal changes everything. Pain is not a signal to stop. It is a condition to work within. Just like fatigue. Just like uncertainty. Just like disappointment. If you wait for pain to disappear before you move, you will be waiting forever. That's not strength. That's avoidance. It's not about pain tolerance. It's about discipline. Say it clearly. I don't need comfort to execute. Say it again. I don't need comfort to execute. That sentence removes excuses. Because most hesitation is not about inability. It's about discomfort. People say they're not ready, but what they mean is they're uncomfortable. They say they're overwhelmed, but what they mean is they don't want to feel strain. Discomfort is misinterpreted as danger. It isn't. Pain is a sensation, not a command. The problem is not pain. The problem is how you respond to it. That's the key. Psychologically, pain narrows attention. It pulls focus inward. It demands acknowledgement. If you allow it to dominate your thinking, it becomes the center of your behavior. Strong people acknowledge pain without obeying it. They say, "I see you," and then they move anyway. That's discipline. Weakness is not feeling pain. Weakness is stopping because of it. The unbroken move forward tired, disappointed, and uncertain. Not because they enjoy it, but because they understand the cost of waiting. Waiting compounds doubt. Waiting feeds fear. Waiting teaches the mind that discomfort is authority. And once discomfort becomes authority, discipline disappears. You don't need their permission to move through pain. Here's the reality most people avoid. There will never be a pain-free season long enough to build something meaningful. There will always be something hurting, something missing, something unresolved. If you tie progress to comfort, you tie progress to chance. Strong people tie progress to rules. Rules do not care how you feel. That's the key. Look at your behavior during pain. Do you slow your standards? Do you loosen routines? Do you tell yourself you'll make it up later? That negotiation is subtle, but destructive. Every time you lower standards because it hurts, you reinforce a dangerous pattern. You teach yourself that pain decides effort. Strong people teach themselves the opposite. They separate pain from performance. They say, pain can come, standards stay. That mindset builds resilience. Resilience is not toughness. It's consistency under strain. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop waiting to feel comfortable. Stop postponing action because today feels heavy. Stop using pain as an explanation for inactivity. Those habits weaken you. Here's what you must start doing. Start reducing tasks to essentials when pain is present. Start focusing on minimum effective action. Start showing up even at reduced capacity. This is important. Functioning while it hurts does not mean pushing recklessly. It means refusing to stop entirely. You don't need maximum output. You need continuity. Continuity protects momentum. That's discipline. On hard days, disciplined people ask one question. What is the smallest action that keeps me moving forward? Not the perfect action. Not the impressive action. The next one. That question bypasses overwhelm. Pain says, this is too much. Discipline replies, then do less, but do something. That's the key. This is how progress survives hard seasons. Not through force. Through persistence. Most people quit in their minds long before they quit physically. They decide the day is lost. They decide the effort doesn't count. They decide they'll restart later. Strong people do not declare days lost. They adjust and continue. That adjustment builds identity. You stop seeing yourself as fragile. You start seeing yourself as reliable. Reliability is power. It means no single bad day can derail you. You have a choice. You can let pain dictate your pace. Or you can let discipline define it. Pain is temporary. Habits are permanent. What you practice during pain becomes your default under pressure. That's why this matters. If you only function when things feel good, you are training weakness. If you function while it hurts, you are training strength. Say it again. I don't need comfort to execute. That phrase should surface automatically when resistance appears. When the body is tired, when the mind is heavy, when emotions are unstable, that's when discipline matters most. Anyone can perform on a good day. The unbroken perform on bad ones. Not perfectly, but consistently. Here's another hard truth. Pain often sharpens focus, if you allow it. When distractions fall away, essentials become clear. Strong people use pain to simplify. They stop overthinking. They stop overplanning. They act. Action grounds the nervous system. It reminds you that you still have agency. Even when things hurt, you don't need their permission to act through pain. Here's a practical instruction. When pain shows up, shorten your time horizon. Do not think about the whole day. Do not think about the entire process. Think about the next 5 minutes. Then the next. Pain becomes overwhelming when you imagine carrying it forever. Discipline brings you back to now. Now is manageable. Now is actionable. That's the key. Another instruction. Do not dramatize pain. No internal speeches. No storytelling. No mental rehearsals of how hard this is. Pain plus drama equals suffering. Pain plus discipline equals progress. Silence the narration. Execute the task. That's discipline. Strong people do not ask, "How long will this hurt?" They ask, "What can I do while it does?" That question changes behavior. You have a choice. You can wait to feel whole before you act. Or you can act and let wholeness catch up. Most growth happens mid-mess, not after it's cleaned up. The unbroken understand this. They don't pause life because conditions are imperfect. They move with what they have. Energy low? Do less, but don't do nothing. Confidence shaky? Act anyway. Clarity missing? Choose the next obvious step. Movement creates clarity. That's the key. Pain will test your standards. It will whisper that you deserve rest from effort, that you've earned a break from discipline. Rest is necessary. Abandonment is not. Strong people rest without quitting. They recover without disappearing. They maintain identity even when performance dips. Identity matters more than output, because identity determines return speed. If you see yourself as someone who functions under strain, you return faster. If you see yourself as someone who stops when it hurts, stopping becomes familiar. Choose carefully. You have a choice. Say it one more time. I don't need comfort to execute. That sentence is not aggression. It's clarity. It means you are no longer waiting for life to feel easier. You are becoming stronger. You've learned to function while it hurts. You've learned to move through discomfort without stopping. You've learned to keep standards intact under pressure. Now it's time to understand why showing up consistently beats pushing hard once in a while. Chapter 6. Consistency beats intensity every time. Intensity feels powerful. It feels heroic. It feels impressive. And that's exactly why it lies to you. Intensity burns fast. Consistency builds dominance. That's the key. Most people mistake effort for progress. They think doing a lot once is better than doing a little every day. It isn't. Intensity is emotional. Consistency is disciplined. Intensity shows up when you feel charged. Consistency shows up when you don't. And the unbroken understands something most people miss. What you do repeatedly matters more than what you do dramatically. You have a choice. You can chase bursts of effort that feel good in the moment. Or you can commit to small actions that compound quietly over time. The unbroken choose the second path. Look at how intensity behaves. It spikes. It drains. It disappears. You go all in for a few days. Maybe a week. Then life hits. Energy drops. Motivation fades. And suddenly the standard collapses. That cycle repeats itself for years. Not because people are weak, but because they built their progress on emotion. Consistency doesn't need emotion. It needs structure. That's the key. Small actions done daily outperform emotional bursts every time. Not sometimes. Every time. Because the brain adapts to repetition. When you show up consistently, behavior becomes automatic. Automatic behavior requires less effort. Less effort means less resistance. That's how dominance is built. Quietly, daily, without drama. Say it clearly. I show up. I show up. I show up. Say it again. I show up. I show up. I show up. Those words matter, because showing up is the habit that makes everything else possible. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they disappear. They disappear when results are slow. They disappear when effort feels boring. They disappear when no one is watching. Strong people don't disappear. They show up, even when it's dull, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels insignificant. That's discipline. It's not about intensity. It's about discipline. Psychologically, intensity hijacks the reward system. It feels good because it's new and stimulating. But consistency rewires identity. When you show up daily, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop debating effort. You stop asking how you feel. You just do what you do. That's the key. The unbroken don't rely on big days. They rely on many small ones. They understand that progress is cumulative. One workout doesn't change your body. One focused hour doesn't change your career. One disciplined choice doesn't change your life. But repeated choices do. That's why consistency wins. You don't need their permission to move quietly. Here's the mistake most people make. They aim for intensity because it feels like proof. Proof that they're serious. Proof that they care. But seriousness is not shown by effort spikes. It's shown by reliability. Reliability means you can be counted on. By others. By systems. By yourself. And the most important one is yourself. When you show up consistently, you build self-trust. Self-trust is not confidence. It's evidence. Evidence that you follow through. That evidence is powerful. It changes how you see yourself. You stop saying, I hope. You start saying, I do. That identity shift is permanent. You have a choice. You can keep chasing intense starts. Or you can build a consistent standard. Standards don't require hype. They require adherence. The unbroken build standards. They decide what happens daily. Not what happens occasionally. Daily action compounds. Occasional effort resets. That's the key. Let's talk about behavior. Intensity usually looks like overdoing it. Too much. Too fast. Too soon. Then exhaustion. Then recovery. Then guilt. Then another restart. That cycle feels productive, but it isn't. Consistency looks modest. Manageable. Sustainable. It doesn't impress people in the short term, but it outperforms them in the long term. Strong people play long games. They are not in a rush to prove anything. You don't need their permission to progress slowly. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop waiting for perfect energy to give full effort. Stop believing big pushes compensate for long gaps. Stop measuring progress by intensity alone. Those habits create burnout. Here's what you must start doing. Start defining minimum daily actions. Start prioritizing streaks over peaks. Start valuing consistency over excitement. This is practical. On low-energy days, consistency means doing less, but doing something. 5 minutes counts. 1 page counts. 1 rep counts. Because consistency preserves momentum. Momentum is fragile. Once broken, it takes energy to restart. Strong people protect momentum fiercely. They would rather do a little today than a lot tomorrow. That's discipline. It's not about how hard you push. It's about how often you show up. Say it again. I show up. I show up. I show up. That phrase removes excuses. It doesn't say, I dominate today. It says, I appear. And appearance is everything. Most success is not dramatic. It's cumulative. You stack days. You stack reps. You stack effort. And one day, you look back and realize something has changed. Not overnight, but permanently. That's the key. Consistency also reduces decision fatigue. When you show up daily, you stop asking whether today matters. Every day matters. When intensity drives behavior, you're constantly deciding whether to go hard or rest. That decision drains willpower. Consistency simplifies. You do the thing, then you stop. No debate. That simplicity frees mental space. And mental space improves focus. Focus improves execution. Execution creates results. That chain starts with consistency. You have a choice. You can make progress complicated, or you can make it boring and effective. Strong people choose boring and effective. They understand that mastery is repetitive. The same skills, the same actions, over and over. That repetition builds dominance. Dominance is not loud. It's inevitable. People wake up one day and call it talent. They didn't see the daily work. They call it luck. They missed the consistency. You don't need their permission to be underestimated. Consistency doesn't care who's watching. It works in silence. Here's another truth. Intensity creates identity whiplash. You feel powerful one day, weak the next. Consistency stabilizes identity. You know who you are. You're someone who shows up. That certainty is calm. It doesn't depend on mood. That's the key. Strong people don't ask, "Can I go hard today?" They ask, "Did I show up?" That question keeps them grounded. When life gets chaotic, consistency becomes an anchor. It gives you something to return to. One habit, one action, one standard. That anchor prevents collapse. That's why consistency matters most during stress. Intensity disappears under pressure. Consistency survives it. You have a choice. You can build a system that works only when life is easy, or you can build one that works when it isn't. The unbroken build systems for hard days. They assume distractions. They assume fatigue. They assume resistance. And they show up anyway. I show up. I show up. I show up. Lock that in. Consistency is not exciting. It is effective. It doesn't make headlines. It builds legacies. And legacies are built one day at a time. You've learned why intensity fades. You've learned why consistency compounds. You've learned to value daily action over emotional effort. Now it's time to reframe the thing most people try to avoid. The very force that strengthens you when used correctly. Chapter 7. Pain is not the enemy. Pain scares people because they misunderstand it. They think pain is a warning to stop. They think pain means something is wrong. They think pain means failure. It doesn't. Pain is feedback, not a stop sign. That's the key. Pain is information. It tells you where you are weak. It tells you where you are growing. It tells you where resistance lives. The unbroken don't run from pain. They read it. You have a choice. You can treat pain like an enemy, or you can treat it like a signal. Strong people choose the signal. Weak people wait for comfort before they move. Strong people move and let comfort catch up later. Every level of growth demands a higher pain tolerance. Not someday. Not eventually. Right now. Because growth stretches you beyond who you were. And stretching hurts. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing it honestly. Say it clearly. This is the price. I pay it. Say it again. This is the price. I pay it. That sentence removes surprise. Most people suffer because they didn't expect discomfort. They thought progress would feel better than it does. It doesn't. Progress feels awkward, unstable, demanding. Pain appears when your current capacity meets a higher demand. That's not punishment. That's adaptation. That's the key. Psychologically, pain triggers avoidance. The brain wants safety. It wants familiarity. It wants certainty. Pain threatens all three. So the brain sends a message. So, slow down. Go back. But discipline overrides that message. Discipline says, this sensation is temporary. The result is permanent. It's not about pain. It's about discipline. Pain doesn't break you. Avoidance does. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce weakness. Every time you endure it, you expand capacity. That expansion changes your baseline. What used to hurt becomes normal. That's how growth works. The unbroken understand this. They don't ask, why does this hurt? They ask, what is this building? That question changes everything. You don't need their permission to be uncomfortable. Here's the truth most people avoid. Pain is unavoidable if you want more. More strength. More discipline. More self-respect. Avoiding pain means avoiding progress. That's the trade. This is the price. I pay it. Pain is not a signal to quit. It's a signal to sharpen. Sharpen your habits. Sharpen your focus. Sharpen your boundaries. Pain exposes inefficiency. When something hurts too much, it's often because you're undisciplined, not incapable. That's the key. Let's get practical. There are two kinds of pain: growth pain and damage pain. Growth pain is discomfort with purpose. Damage pain is warning of harm. The disciplined learn to tell the difference. Growth pain feels like strain, like resistance, like effort. Damage pain feels sharp, chaotic, escalating without control. The unbroken respect damage pain. They don't glorify injury, but they never confuse growth pain for danger. Most people do. They label discomfort as danger, and that mislabeling keeps them small. You have a choice. You can interpret pain as a threat, or you can interpret it as tuition. Tuition for the next level. Every level charges a fee. This is the price. I pay it. Let's talk behavior. What must you stop doing? Stop dramatizing discomfort. Stop narrating pain like it's unfair. Stop looking for sympathy every time it gets hard. Sympathy weakens discipline. It gives you an excuse to retreat. What must you start doing? Start observing pain without emotion. Start labeling it accurately. Start moving through it deliberately. Pain does not require reaction. It requires regulation. Strong people regulate themselves. They don't panic when things feel heavy. They don't quit when things feel slow. They don't collapse when things feel lonely. They adjust and continue. That's discipline. It's not about toughness. It's about tolerance. Tolerance expands through exposure. Avoidance shrinks it. That's the key. Pain tolerance is a skill. And like all skills, it improves with practice. You don't wait to feel ready. You train while it's uncomfortable. Most people want growth without friction. That fantasy keeps them stuck. The unbroken accept friction as part of the process. They stop asking, when will this get easier? And start asking, what is this demanding from me? That question creates clarity. Sometimes pain demands patience. Sometimes it demands adjustment. Sometimes it demands rest. But never avoidance. Avoidance is weakness disguised as self-care. True self-care is doing what strengthens you long-term. And strength often hurts short-term. You don't need their permission to choose strength. Here's another psychological truth. Pain sharpens attention. When things hurt, you become present. That presence can either break you or refine you. If you resist pain, attention turns into panic. If you accept pain, attention turns into focus. Focus accelerates learning. That's why struggle teaches faster than comfort. Comfort teaches nothing. Pain teaches precision. It shows you what matters. That's the key. Every serious transformation includes a phase where you want to stop. That moment is not a sign you're failing. It's the entrance exam. Those who pass it move forward. Those who don't repeat the same level forever. This is the price. I pay it. Say it again. This is the price. I pay it. That phrase anchors you. It removes negotiation. You're not asking if it's worth it. You've already decided. Decisions reduce suffering. Indecision multiplies it. When you decide to pay the price, pain loses its power. It becomes expected. Expected pain is manageable. Unexpected pain feels overwhelming. Expect it. Plan for it. Meet it calmly. That's discipline. Pain tolerance also builds emotional stability. When you stop reacting to discomfort, your emotions stop controlling you. You become harder to shake, harder to distract, harder to manipulate. That stability creates confidence. Not loud confidence. Quiet certainty. The kind that doesn't need validation. You don't need their permission to endure in silence. Strong people don't advertise pain. They absorb it. They don't complain. They calibrate. They ask, what's required? Then they execute. That's the unbroken mindset. Pain is not the enemy. Avoidance is. Comfort addiction is. The belief that things should feel good before they work is. Discipline replaces that belief with reality. Reality says effort hurts. Reality says growth costs. Reality says progress demands tolerance. Accept reality. That's the key. You have a choice. You can keep interpreting pain as a reason to stop, or you can use it as confirmation you're moving forward. Only one of those paths leads somewhere new. This is the price. I pay it. Lock that in. You've reframed pain. You've learned to read it, not fear it. You've accepted the cost of growth without complaint. Now it's time to address the silent killer of progress. The constant noise that weakens focus and drains resolve. Chapter 8. Cut off mental escape routes. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they keep an exit open. A quiet one. A mental one. An escape route they don't talk about but always keep nearby. If this doesn't work, I'll do something else. If it gets too hard, I can always stop. If I don't feel it today, I'll restart tomorrow. That sentence structure is weakness disguised as flexibility. That's the key. Backup plans weaken commitment. When your mind knows there's an exit, it never gives full effort. It holds back. It conserves energy. It waits for permission to quit. You have a choice. You can keep a door open and live half-committed. Or you can close it and force yourself to adapt. The unbroken close the door. They don't burn bridges for drama. They remove escape routes for focus. There's a difference. An escape route is not safety. It's hesitation with good PR. Psychologically, the brain always chooses the least painful option. If quitting is available, it becomes attractive the moment pressure rises. That's human nature. Discipline exists to override that instinct. It's not about confidence. It's not about motivation. It's about structure. Remove the option to quit, and behavior changes. Performance increases. Urgency sharpens. Creativity activates. That's the key. Think about it. When you must act, you find a way. When you might quit, you look for reasons. Most people live in might. Might try. Might commit. Might see how it goes. That language creates weak results. The unbroken use different language. There is no exit. Only execution. Say it. There is no exit. Only execution. Say it again. There is no exit. only execution. That phrase shuts down negotiation. And negotiation is where discipline dies. You don't need their permission to remove your safety nets. Let's talk reality. Escape routes show up everywhere. You start a routine, but don't fix the time. You pursue a goal, but don't set consequences. You talk about commitment, but keep alternatives warm. That's not strategy. That's fear management. Fear of discomfort. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of discovering your limits. But limits only expand under pressure. Pressure requires commitment. Commitment requires closed doors. That's the key. When quitting is removed as an option, the mind adapts. It stops asking, "Should I keep going?" and starts asking, "How do I make this work?" That shift is everything. Questions shape behavior. Weak questions create weak actions. Strong questions create solutions. Cutting off escape routes forces better questions. Better questions produce better outcomes. You have a choice. You can keep asking if it's worth it, or you can decide it is, and move forward. Decisions simplify life. Indecision drains energy. Most people are tired not because they work hard, but because they keep debating with themselves. Internal debate is exhausting. Discipline ends debate. It says, "This is what we're doing. Period." That's the key. Let's get practical. What must you stop doing? Stop romanticizing options. Stop telling yourself you need a backup to feel safe. Stop keeping one foot in and one foot out. That posture creates instability. You can't drive forward while looking for exits. What must you start doing? Start setting non-negotiables. Start designing consequences for quitting. Start structuring your environment so continuation is easier than escape. Discipline is environmental. It's not about willpower. It's about design. If quitting is convenient, you'll quit. If execution is the only path, you'll execute. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. That's the key. Remove apps that feed distraction. Block time that cannot be rescheduled. Publicly commit if necessary. Not for validation. For accountability. Accountability closes exits. Silence keeps them open. You don't need their permission to hold yourself to a higher standard. Here's a hard truth. Freedom comes after commitment, not before. Most people think commitment limits them. It doesn't. It liberates focus. When you stop wondering what else you could be doing, you finally do something well. Mastery requires constraint. Constraint creates depth. Depth produces results. That's the key. The unbroken don't chase endless possibilities. They choose one path and walk it fully. They don't need options. They need outcomes. Options are comforting. Outcomes are earned. There is no exit. Only execution. Say it again. There is no exit. Only execution. This doesn't mean stubbornness. It means responsibility. You still adjust tactics. You still learn. You still refine. But you don't quit. Quitting is not refinement. It's relief-seeking. And relief-seeking kills growth. Pain is temporary. Regret is permanent. Remember Chapter 7. Pain is the price. You pay it. Escape routes are attempts to avoid payment. But the bill always comes due. That's the key. When you remove escape routes, fear shows up stronger at first. That's normal. Fear escalates when it realizes it's losing control. It gets louder, more dramatic, more convincing. This is the moment most people cave. The unbroken stay still. They don't argue with fear. They don't try to silence it. They just don't obey it. Fear is allowed to speak. It is not allowed to decide. You have a choice. You can let fear write your exits, or you can close them and move anyway. Discipline doesn't eliminate fear. It makes fear irrelevant. That's the key. As days pass without exits, something changes. Confidence stops being emotional. It becomes factual. You trust yourself because you've proven something. You don't quit. That identity is powerful. Identity shapes behavior. When you see yourself as someone who finishes, starting becomes easier. Consistency improves. Focus deepens. Standards rise. All because you closed a door. You don't need their permission to define yourself this way. Let's anchor this. There is no exit. Only execution. This is not aggression. It's clarity. Clarity reduces stress. Ambiguity creates anxiety. Most anxiety comes from undecided futures. Decide. Remove the option to retreat. And watch how capable you become. That's the key. One more thing. Escape routes often hide behind self-respect. People say, I don't want to trap myself. But discipline is not a trap. Indecision is. Commitment doesn't imprison you. It forges you. You become sharper, stronger, more reliable to yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of everything. Cut off the exits. Stand in the pressure. Execute. There is no exit. Only execution. You've removed the escape routes. You've forced commitment to replace comfort. You've chosen execution over negotiation. Now it's time to learn how the unbroken conserve energy, protect focus, and move quietly while others talk themselves in circles. Chapter 9. Focus is a weapon. Focus is not a personality trait. It is a skill. And like every weapon, it can be trained, sharpened, or left to rust. Right now, distraction is the default setting of the world. Noise everywhere. Opinions everywhere. Notifications pulling at you like hooks. Most people don't lose because they're weak. They lose because their attention is fragmented. That's the key. Distraction is modern weakness. Not because it feels bad, but because it silently drains execution. Every time your attention jumps, momentum breaks. Every time momentum breaks, discipline weakens. And weak discipline produces inconsistent results. You have a choice. You can let the world aim your mind. Or you can aim at yourself. The unbroken choose deliberately. They understand one simple truth. What you focus on grows. Say it. What I focus on grows. Say it again. What I focus on grows. That sentence is not motivational. It's mechanical. Attention is fuel. Whatever you feed gets stronger. Feed fear, it multiplies. Feed excuses, they expand. Feed clarity, it compounds. That's the key. Most people think focus is about concentration. It's not. Focus is about elimination. It's not about doing more. It's about removing what doesn't matter. Weak focus comes from too many inputs, too many voices, too many goals, too many open tabs in the mind. The unbroken simplify. They don't chase everything. They choose one priority and protect it. Protection is discipline. And discipline is never comfortable. You don't need their permission to protect your attention. Let's break this down psychologically. The brain seeks novelty. New stimuli release dopamine. Dopamine feels good. So the brain chases more. That's not a character flaw. That's biology. But discipline exists to override biology. It's not about temptation. It's about structure. That's the key. If your environment is noisy, your mind will be noisy. If your inputs are chaotic, your output will be weak. You can't think clearly in a mental landfill. So what must you stop doing? Stop consuming before producing. Stop starting your day with other people's priorities. Stop pretending multitasking is efficient. It's not about busyness. It's about discipline. Multitasking fractures attention. Fractured attention produces shallow work. Shallow work never changes your life. You have a choice. You can be informed about everything and effective at nothing, or focused on one thing and dangerous at it. The unbroken choose danger. They understand focus is a weapon. A weapon requires control. An uncontrolled weapon hurts the holder. An uncontrolled mind does the same. That's the key. Now, what must you start doing? Start designing focus windows. Start deciding in advance what deserves your attention. Start treating focus like a finite resource. Because it is. Every yes to distraction is a no to progress. You don't feel it immediately, but the cost accumulates. Minutes become hours. Hours become days. Days become regret. The unbroken don't wait for regret to teach them. They learn early. They eliminate noise to amplify results. Silence is not emptiness. It's space. Space to think. Space to execute. Space to recover. That's the key. Let's get practical. If something doesn't move you toward your primary goal, it is noise. Not evil. Not wrong. Just irrelevant. Relevance is determined by outcomes, not feelings. You don't need their permission to prioritize outcomes. This means saying no. Often. To people. To opportunities. To distractions dressed as productivity. Saying no is discipline in action. Weak people explain their no. Strong people enforce it. You have a choice. You can protect feelings or protect focus. You can't do both. The unbroken protect focus. They understand that attention once spent is gone forever. Time is not the only currency. Attention is. And attention determines how time compounds. That's the key. Let's address resistance. At first, narrowing focus feels uncomfortable. You'll feel like you're missing out. That's normal. That discomfort is withdrawal from stimulation. The mind has been trained to consume endlessly. When you stop, it panics. It tells you you're falling behind. You're not. You're stepping ahead. Focus feels boring to undisciplined minds. Because boredom is the gateway to depth. Depth produces mastery. Mastery produces freedom. That's the path. The unbroken walk it quietly. Repeat this. What I focus on grows. When you focus on your weakness, it dominates you. When you focus on solutions, capability expands. When you focus on drama, energy drains. When you focus on process, results follow. It's not about talent. It's about discipline. That's the key. Let's talk about internal focus. Distraction is not only external. Self-doubt is noise. Comparison is noise. Replaying conversations is noise. If it doesn't help you execute, it's noise. Stop rehearsing failure. Stop narrating your own fear. Stop feeding thoughts that don't serve action. You have a choice. You can listen to every thought, or you can select the ones that deserve attention. Thoughts are not commands. They are suggestions. Discipline decides which ones get obeyed. You don't need their permission to interrupt your own negative patterns. Here's a rule. If a thought doesn't help you act, it doesn't deserve focus. Simple. Not easy, but simple. That's the key. The unbroken are ruthless with attention. They don't scroll aimlessly. They don't consume without intention. They don't let emotions hijack direction. They pause. They choose. They execute. Over time, this creates a sharp mind. A dangerous mind. One that doesn't flinch under pressure. Because focus has been trained. Training requires repetition. Daily. Not intense. Consistent. Remember chapter 6. Consistency beats intensity every time. Focus is trained the same way. Short periods of deep attention, repeated daily. No drama. No heroics. just showing up. You have a choice. You can practice distraction or practice focus. You will become what you practice. That's the key. One more thing. Focus reveals character. When you remove distractions, you confront yourself, your impatience, your avoidance, your discomfort with stillness. Most people run from that. The unbroken face it. They understand silence is not the enemy. It's a mirror, and mirrors show what needs work. Work is where growth happens. So don't fear narrowing your world. Power lives there. Focus turns effort into impact. Scattered energy fades. Concentrated energy cuts. Focus is a weapon. Wield it. What I focus on grows. Say it one last time. What I focus on grows. You've learned to eliminate noise. You've turned attention into a weapon. You've chosen depth over distraction. Now it's time to decide how you respond when progress goes unnoticed, when validation is absent, and when the world is silent. Chapter 10. Build identity, not goals. Most people are obsessed with goals. They write them down. They visualize them. They talk about them. And then they quit. Not because goals are bad, but because goals expire. Identity compounds. That's the key. A goal is something you want. An identity is who you are. When motivation fades, goals collapse. When discipline is embedded in identity, action continues. You have a choice. You can chase outcomes, or you can become the kind of person who produces them. The unbroken choose identity. They understand a simple truth. When behavior aligns with identity, effort drops. You don't negotiate with who you are. You act in alignment. That's the key. Let's be clear. Goals are external. Identity is internal. Goals depend on mood, timing, and circumstances. Identity operates regardless of how you feel. That's why most people start strong and finish weak. They rely on goals without changing who they are. They want different results without a different self. It doesn't work. It never has. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your identity. Say it. I don't rise to my goals. I fall to my identity. That sentence explains almost everything. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you'll act that way. If you see yourself as disciplined, you'll find a way. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. That's the key. Look at your past, not your intentions. Your patterns. Patterns reveal identity. If you quit when things get uncomfortable, that's an identity. If you delay when things get hard, that's an identity. Identity is not what you say. It's what you repeat. The unbroken don't lie to themselves about this. They don't judge it either. They decide to rebuild. You have a choice. You can defend your old identity, or you can construct a new one. Identity is built through evidence. Small acts, repeated daily, without negotiation. That's the key. Let's break the psychology. The brain seeks consistency. It wants your actions to match your self-image. So if you see yourself as someone who doesn't miss, missing feels uncomfortable. If you see yourself as someone who quits, quitting feels normal. Discipline is the tool that rewires identity, not affirmations, not hype, behavior. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. That's the key. So what must you stop doing? Stop setting goals without standards. Stop chasing motivation instead of structure. Stop saying, I'll try. Trying is language of uncertainty. The unbroken don't try. They do. You don't need their permission to stop performing effort and start producing evidence. What must you start doing? Start defining who you are. In actions. Not labels. Not aspirations. Actions. I am someone who trains even when tired. I am someone who finishes what I start. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. Those are not affirmations. They are contracts. Contracts must be honored. That's the key. Every time you act in alignment, identity strengthens. Every time you break alignment, identity weakens. This is why discipline matters more than intensity. Intensity creates moments. Discipline creates identity. Remember Chapter 6. Consistency beats intensity every time. Identity is consistency made visible. You have a choice. You can build an identity accidentally or deliberately. Most people let circumstances define them. The unbroken decide. They decide who they are before conditions agree. That's strength. That's leadership. That's the key. Let's talk about finishing. Finishing is not about willpower. It's about identity. When you become the type of person who finishes, finishing becomes automatic. No drama. No speeches. You just do it. Because not finishing would violate who you are. Violation creates internal tension. Discipline eliminates that tension by aligning behavior. That's the key. This is why goals alone fail. A goal says, I want to run a marathon. Identity says, I am a runner. One requires constant effort. The other creates natural behavior. Runners run. Writers write. Finishers finish. They don't need motivation. They have alignment. You don't need their permission to change how you see yourself. But understand this. Identity change is uncomfortable because your old self will resist. Old habits fight to survive. They whisper things like, you're not that person. You've failed before. Why bother changing? That voice is not truth. It's inertia. And inertia is defeated by movement. That's the key. You don't argue with the old identity. You outwork it. One action at a time. No announcements. No explanations. Silent consistency. Remember Chapter 9. Focus is a weapon. Use it on yourself. Focus on becoming, not achieving. Achievement is a byproduct. Say this. This is who I am. Say it again. This is who I am. Not loudly. Not emotionally. Calmly. Firmly. Identity is quiet confidence. Now, let's get practical. Choose one identity to build first. Not 10. What? Maybe it's, I am someone who trains daily. I am someone who works without excuses. I am someone who finishes difficult tasks. Then ask one question. What would this person do today? Not tomorrow. Not next month. Today. Then do that. Even if it's small. Especially if it's small. Small actions done consistently carve identity deeper than grand gestures. That's the key. Do not wait to feel like that person. You don't feel ready. You move anyway. Identity follows behavior. Not the other way around. You have a choice. You can wait for confidence. Or you can build evidence. Evidence creates confidence. Discipline creates evidence. It's not about talent. It's about discipline. That's the key. Another warning. Do not tie identity to outcomes you can't control. You are not successful when you win. You are disciplined when you show up. Outcome-based identity collapses under pressure. Process-based identity survives everything. The unbroken attach identity to effort, not applause. They don't need validation. They need alignment. You don't need their permission to stop seeking approval and start building self-respect. Self-respect is earned through kept promises. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens identity. Every one you break weakens it. This is not motivational fluff. This is math. Behavior plus repetition equals identity. Identity multiplied by time equals destiny. That's the key. Let's anchor this chapter. Goals expire. Identity compounds. Goals motivate briefly. Identity sustains permanently. When you become the type of person who finishes, finishing is automatic. No negotiation. No drama. Just execution. Say it one last time. This is who I am. You've stopped chasing goals and started building identity. You've shifted from wanting outcomes to becoming disciplined. You've learned that who you are determines what you produce. Now it's time to define the non-negotiables that protect this identity under pressure. Chapter 11. Use failure without becoming it. Failure happens. Not because you're weak. Not because you're broken. But because you're moving. Failure is not a verdict. It's an event. That's the key. Most people don't collapse from failure itself. They collapse from what they decide it means. They turn an outcome into an identity. They turn a mistake into a label. I failed becomes, I am a failure. That mental shift is where damage happens. You have a choice. You can use failure as data, or you can absorb it as shame. Strong people extract lessons without absorbing shame. The unbroken never confuse the two. Failure is information. Shame is optional. That's the key. Let's get precise. Failure is feedback from reality. It tells you what didn't work, what wasn't ready, what needs adjustment. Shame tells you to stop. Shame whispers that you're exposed, that people are judging, that it's safer to retreat. Shame kills momentum. Discipline ignores shame and studies data. It's not about emotion. It's about execution. That's the key. Psychologically, the mind craves certainty. Failure threatens certainty. So the mind looks for a story to restore control. The easiest story is identity-based. I'm just not good at this. This always happens to me. I knew I couldn't do it. Those sentences feel relieving in the short term. They explain pain, but they poison progress. You don't need their permission to reject those stories. You have a choice. You can explain failure, or you can learn from it. The unbroken choose learning. They separate self-worth from outcomes. They don't protect their ego. They protect their trajectory. That's the key. Here's the hard truth. If you are doing anything meaningful, you will fail. Often, failure is not the opposite of success. Inaction is. Failure proves you attempted something with weight. The goal is not to avoid failure. The goal is to recover correctly. Recovery is a skill. Most people were never taught it, so they quit. The unbroken train it. They fail forward. Say this. I learn. I adjust. I continue. Say it again. I learn. I adjust. I continue. That sequence turns failure into momentum. Learning without adjustment is reflection theater. Adjustment without continuation is hesitation. All three are required. That's the key. Let's talk behavior. What must you stop doing? Stop catastrophizing mistakes. Stop replaying failures for emotional punishment. Stop announcing your setbacks as proof of inadequacy. That's not honesty. That's self-sabotage. You don't need their permission to stop humiliating yourself internally. What must you start doing? Start conducting failure reviews. Not emotional autopsies. Technical ones. Ask better questions. What specifically broke down? Where did preparation fall short? What variable did I underestimate? Those questions produce leverage. Blame produces paralysis. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. That's the key. The unbroken treat failure like a coach would. Direct. Objective. Unsympathetic to excuses. They don't dramatize. They diagnose. Drama seeks attention. Diagnosis seeks solutions. You have a choice. You can bleed emotionally, or you can sharpen tactically. Only one leads forward. Strong people do not need failure to feel good. They need it to teach clearly. That's maturity. That's discipline. That's the key. Now, let's address shame. Shame sticks when identity is fragile. If your sense of self depends on success, failure will crush you. That's why Chapter 10 mattered. Identity over goals. When identity is based on discipline, failure loses power. You don't see yourself as successful or not. You see yourself as someone who shows up. Failure doesn't negate that. It reinforces it. Because you're still here. You're still moving. You're still executing. You don't need their permission to keep going after a setback. Here's another truth. Most people quit not because they failed, but because they failed publicly. Embarrassment is a powerful deterrent. But embarrassment fades. Regret doesn't. The unbroken choose short-term discomfort over long-term self-disgust. They let people see them struggle. Because progress doesn't need approval. It needs persistence. That's the key. Failure only defines you if you stop. As long as you continue, it's just part of the process. Say it again. I learn. I adjust. I continue. This is not optimism. It's protocol. A system for moving through resistance. Systems beat emotions. Every time. You have a choice. You can feel your way forward. Or you can structure your way forward. The unbroken structure. They don't wait to feel confident again. They rebuild confidence by acting. Confidence is a side effect of evidence. Evidence comes from action. Action continues after failure. That's the loop. Break it and you stagnate. Honor it and you evolve. That's the key. Let's get practical. After a failure, do this within 24 hours. Write down exactly what happened. No adjectives. Just facts. Identify one adjustment. Not 5. 3. Schedule the next attempt. Not someday. A date. This prevents rumination. Rumination feels productive. It's not. Execution is productive. It's not about the flaw. It's about discipline. That's the key. The unbroken move quickly from setback to structure. They don't wallow. They recalibrate. They understand that speed of recovery matters more than absence of failure. Fast recovery compounds. Slow recovery calcifies doubt. You don't need their permission to recover faster than before. One more thing. Do not weaponize past failures against your future. Your mind will try. It will bring receipts. Old mistakes. Old patterns. That's not wisdom. That's fear masquerading as caution. Wisdom extracts lessons and moves on. Fear keeps the evidence open forever. Close the file. Use the lesson. Continue. That's the key. Failure is not a mirror of who you are. It's a snapshot of where you were. You are not required to stay there. You have a choice. You can let failure define you, or you can let it refine you. The unbroken choose refinement. They become dangerous because they are not fragile. They don't shatter under mistakes. They harden intelligently. That's discipline. That's growth. That's the key. Say it one last time. I learn. I adjust. I continue. You've learned to use failure without becoming it. You've separated events from identity. You've chosen discipline over shame. Now it's time to address the final test of the unbroken. How to carry this discipline forward when no one is watching, when progress is slow, and when the path feels endless. Chapter 12. Decide once. Stand forever. Indecision is not neutral. It is expensive. It drains energy. It steals momentum. It fractures identity. Every time you hesitate, you leak power. Every time you renegotiate with yourself, you weaken your word. Every time you say, maybe tomorrow, you train yourself to quit today. That's the truth. Strong people are not stronger because they feel more confident. They're stronger because they decide once. And then they stand. That's the key. Most people think commitment is about motivation. It's not. It's about ending internal debate. You have a choice. You can live in constant negotiation with your own mind. Or you can make a decision and remove the question forever. Decide once. Stand forever. Listen carefully. Your life is not shaped by the options you consider. It's shaped by the decisions you finalize. Undecided people stay tired. Decided people move. Psychologically, indecision keeps your nervous system on high alert. Your brain stays open loop. Always scanning. Always questioning. Always burning energy. Decision closes the loop. It creates calm. It restores strength. That's why commitment feels relieving after it's made. Not before. After. You don't need more clarity. You need finality. Stop telling yourself you're still thinking about it. That phrase is poison. It sounds responsible, but it's fear in disguise. It's not about intelligence. It's not about timing. It's not about readiness. It's about discipline. You have a choice. Here's the pattern that keeps people stuck. They decide. Then discomfort appears. Then they reopen the decision. They start a routine. Miss one day. And suddenly the whole thing is up for debate again. They commit to a boundary. Feel lonely. And renegotiate their standards. They choose a path. Hit resistance. And question the choice instead of their effort. That is weakness masquerading as flexibility. Strong people don't renegotiate with pain. They expect it. That's the key. Once you decide, your job is no longer to evaluate. Your job is to execute. Execution doesn't require emotion. It requires obedience. You don't need their permission. Not from friends. Not from family. Not from your past self. You only need alignment with the decision you already made. Say it again. The decision is made. Say it until your nervous system settles. Say it until your mind stops arguing. Say it until action becomes automatic. Because that's what identity does. It removes choice. When you decide once, behavior follows without drama. There's no daily debate. No emotional bargaining. No internal chaos. You brush your teeth without motivation. But because the decision was made long ago. That's how discipline works. Most people think freedom comes from options. It doesn't. Freedom comes from commitment. When everything is optional, everything is exhausting. When something is decided, it becomes light. Stop living as if every day is a referendum on your future. It's not. Make fewer decisions. Make stronger ones. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop asking yourself how you feel about the plan. Feelings fluctuate. Decisions don't. Stop waiting for confidence before action. Confidence is the result of standing by a decision, not the cause. Stop giving yourself exit ramps. Those are escape hatches for weakness. Stop romanticizing flexibility when what you really need is backbone. Now here's what you must start doing. Decide in advance. Decide when you're calm. Decide when you're clear. Then lock it in. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Commit publicly if needed. Remove alternatives. Burn the boats. When resistance shows up, and it will, you don't reassess the decision. You reassess your effort. That's the difference. It's not about fear. It's not about doubt. It's about discipline. You have a choice. There's a reason elite performers simplify their lives. They wear the same clothes. Follow rigid routines. Eat the same meals. Not because they lack creativity, but because decision fatigue kills execution. Every unnecessary decision steals strength from the ones that matter. You don't rise to your potential. You sync to your systems. Decide your standards once. Then enforce them daily. Decide what you tolerate. Decide what you pursue. Decide what you walk away from. And once decided, stop explaining yourself. You don't need their permission. Here's a hard truth. If you keep changing your mind, you don't trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, nothing you build will last. Self-trust is forged by keeping your word to yourself. Again and again and again. Every time you stand by a decision under pressure, your identity hardens. You become unbreakable. That's the theme of this book. Unbroken. Not because life is easy, but because your resolve is final. Say it again. The decision is made. Notice how that feels. Solid. Grounded. Non-negotiable. That's power. You are not here to try. You are here to do. Trying leaves room for quitting. Doing leaves room only for progress. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be committed. Commitment outlasts talent. Commitment outperforms motivation. Commitment outworks inspiration. That's the key. When you decide once, you reclaim all the energy you used to waste on doubt. You sleep better. You move faster. You speak with certainty. People feel it. Opportunities align with it. Because clarity attracts momentum. Now listen closely. There will be moments when standing by your decision hurts. Moments when quitting would feel easier. Moments when the old habits call you back. That's not a sign you chose wrong. That's a sign the decision is working. Growth always tests commitment before it rewards it. Stand anyway. This is where most people fold. This is where you separate. You have a choice. Every morning, you either reopen the question, or you act as if it's already answered. Answer it once. If you want a different life, stop giving yourself different options every day. Choose the path. Plant your feet. Move forward. No drama. No negotiation. No retreat. Decide once. Stand forever. That is how discipline replaces weakness. That is how identity becomes action. That is how the unbroken are built. Lock this in now. You are not undecided. You are not confused. You are not waiting. The decision is made. And because it's made, the path is clear. You've learned how to stand under pressure. You've learned how to choose strength over comfort. You've learned how to become unbreakable by eliminating doubt. Now it's time to protect that strength. Now it's time to master where you place your attention. Chapter 13. Guard your focus like a fortress. Distraction is modern weakness. It creeps in quietly. It looks harmless. It whispers, just one more scroll. Just one more episode. Just one more check. But every second you surrender is energy lost. Every compromise in attention is a compromise in your life. Your focus is the currency of your results. The unbroken guard it like a fortress. That's the key. Let's be clear. You don't need to be more talented. You don't need to wait for inspiration. You need focus. Deep, sustained, unrelenting focus. Focus is not convenience. It is choice. And choice requires discipline. The human mind is lazy by design. It seeks pleasure, avoids pain, and defaults to novelty. Social media, notifications, multitasking, noise. They are all designed to steal your power. You have a choice. You can let them in, or you can shut the gates. That's the key. Here's what happens when you fail to guard your attention. Small leaks add up. A 5-minute break becomes an hour. A quick distraction becomes a day lost. Momentum collapses quietly. You feel busy. You feel productive. But your life isn't moving forward. You're spinning. That's why the unbroken do not negotiate with distraction. They do not entertain minor indulgences. They see them for what they are: energy theft. and they respond immediately. Guarding focus is not about denial. It's about prioritization. It's about treating your time like the scarce resource it is. It's about creating a fortress around your most important actions. That's the key. Psychologically, distraction is addictive. The dopamine spike feels good. It tricks the brain into thinking you're achieving. But progress is not a notification. Progress is action in the service of your purpose. The unbroken understand this. They recognize the illusion immediately. They do not chase it. They control it. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop giving your attention to what does not serve your mission. Stop allowing interruptions to dictate your day. Stop scrolling, checking, scrolling, checking. Stop multitasking. It's not about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest. Honesty produces results. Excuses produce fatigue. Now, here's what you must start doing. Start protecting your focus like it is life itself, because it is. Start setting boundaries. Start scheduling distraction-free time. Start saying no to requests that dilute your attention. The unbroken create environments where focus is natural. No phone at the table. No constant notifications. No open tabs that serve no purpose. They sculpt reality to match their priorities. That's the key. Remember, focus is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Every decision you make to protect your attention compounds. Every second spent guarding it adds armor to your mind. Every moment of discipline strengthens the fortress. Repetition is critical here. You have a choice. You can surrender your focus, or you can defend it. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You just need to enforce the rules you set for yourself. The unbroken repeat this mantra. What I focus on grows. Say it. Say it again. Say it until your mind no longer wanders. Because that's what reality responds to: repeated, sustained attention. Not fleeting interest. Not emotional whims. Sustained, purposeful effort. Let's get practical. Start by identifying your core priorities. What matters most in the next 24 hours? Next week? Next month? Everything else is noise. Treat it that way. Label it. Remove it from your mental field unless it aligns with the mission. Then create boundaries for your energy. Work in blocks. No email. No phone. No distractions. Commit to executing the task fully before switching. Discipline is the key, because your mind will resist. Resistance is guaranteed. The pull of ease is relentless. That's why most people fail. They follow the path of least resistance instead of the path of focus. You have a choice. You can follow ease, or you can enforce discipline. Discipline builds the fortress. Ease destroys it. Reinforce it every day. Your attention is not infinite. Your time is not infinite. Protect them like a fortress wall. Impenetrable. Non-negotiable. Here's another truth. Distraction is often disguised as opportunity. A text from a friend. A trending video. A new tool. A new course. A new system. They all claim value. But the unbroken ask one question. Does this move me closer to my mission, or does it steal my momentum? Everything else is discarded. Immediately. No negotiation. It's not harsh. It's smart. It's survival in a world of endless input. The human mind cannot do everything. It cannot give attention everywhere. Focus is the limiting factor of achievement. Everything you want requires it. Without it, you drift. The unbroken understand this at the cellular level. They don't wait for willpower. They structure the environment. They remove choice. They remove temptation. This is the secret many fail to see. You do not rise to attention. You fall to structure. Structure protects the fortress. Structure enforces the walls. Structure makes focus automatic. Every day, the unbroken repeat. What I focus on grows. And they defend it with rules, with boundaries, and with sacred routines. Let's talk about execution. Even when tired, even when bored, even when frustrated, you maintain focus. You do not excuse yourself. You do not negotiate. You execute. But because the results are not proportional to effort, they are proportional to attention applied over time. Repetition again. What I focus on grows. Say it, own it, live it. The fortress has gates. Not because the unbroken are inflexible, but because they understand where power leaks. And they close those leaks relentlessly. Your mind will complain. Your friends will complain. Your old habits will complain. That's the sound of resistance testing the walls. Stand firm. Stand long. Stand disciplined. That's the key. Notice how this applies to identity. You are not simply doing tasks. You are cultivating yourself. Every focused hour, every guarded minute, compounds. Your identity strengthens. Your discipline becomes automatic. Your life becomes unbreakable. That's why the unbroken never treat focus as optional. It's the lever that moves mountains. It's the foundation. It's the fortress. You have a choice. You can drift. You can give in to distraction. Or you can protect your attention like your life depends on it. Because it does. The unbroken choose the fortress. They enforce the walls. They eliminate leaks. They decide what matters. And then they focus. Say it one last time. What I focus on grows. This is your shield. This is your sword. This is your power. Guard your focus relentlessly. Guard it like your mission depends on it. Because it does. And once the fortress stands, nothing can touch your momentum. You've learned to master distraction. You've learned to convert attention into action. You've learned to protect your energy as the ultimate weapon. Now it's time to wield it. Chapter 14. Execute beyond limits. Execution separates the dreamers from the doers. Ideas are cheap. Plans are useless without action. The unbroken know this. They move, relentlessly, without pause. That's the key. Execution is not about waiting for perfect conditions. It's not about having enough time. It's not about feeling ready. None of that matters. The unbroken act anyway. You have a choice. You can wait for the stars to align. Or you can decide here and now to execute. That's the difference. Most people never reach their potential because they stop short. They hesitate. They doubt. They rationalize inaction. And every excuse chips away at their life. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to have every detail figured out. You just have to start. And then continue. Execution is a muscle. It grows only through repetition. Through action. Through doing what others refuse. Pain will come. Discomfort will come. Resistance will rise. And here is the truth. The moment you push through, you become stronger. Repeat this. I move when I don't feel ready. I act when it's uncomfortable. I execute beyond limits. Execution is a discipline. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's relentless. Every level of success requires it. There is no shortcut. No secret hack. No permission from anyone. You don't need their permission. The unbroken do not negotiate with themselves. When it is time to act, they act. When it is time to push, they push. No hesitation. No excuses. No delay. This is what separates the average from the elite. The average waits for motivation. The unbroken do not need motivation. They rely on discipline. They rely on systems. They rely on execution. Here's what you must stop doing. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop allowing fear to dictate your speed. Stop overthinking, overplanning, overpreparing. Action is the antidote to doubt. And here's what you must start doing. Start now. Start imperfectly. Start relentlessly. Execute every day. Execute every hour. Execute with intensity beyond comfort. Every action compounds. Every moment of focused execution builds momentum. Momentum is unstoppable once it begins. And the unbroken feed it consistently. Let's break down why execution beyond limits works. First, speed. Speed creates clarity. The faster you move, the more information you gather. The more feedback you receive. The faster you can adjust. Second, confidence. Each completed action reinforces your ability. Every small victory compounds. Every completed task silences doubt. Third, dominance. Consistent execution overwhelms competition. While others hesitate, you advance. While others wait, you act. You become the force others react to. That's the key. Execution requires mental toughness. Discomfort is constant. Sacrifice is mandatory. Sleep may be short. Energy may be low. And yet you continue. Because the unbroken know this. Comfort is the enemy of results. Pain is the teacher. Discipline is the bridge. Execution is the outcome. Let's talk about practical strategies to execute beyond limits. Set non-negotiable priorities. Decide what matters most. Everything else is secondary. Protect your energy for the essential few actions that move the needle. Break action into steps. Overwhelm kills execution. Divide large tasks into small, actionable steps. Complete them sequentially. Momentum builds as you go. Implement a 24-hour rule. Commit to executing every critical task within 24 hours. Delay is the enemy. Speed is power. Track results relentlessly. Feedback is fuel. Measure progress daily. Adjust quickly, but do not stop. Create execution rituals. Habits automate action. Start your day with high-priority tasks. Finish your day by reviewing completed actions. The unbroken repeat. I learn. I act. I adjust. I continue. They execute beyond limits because their system is non-negotiable. Execution is also psychological warfare. It breaks the mind's laziness. It shatters hesitation. It silences internal dialogue that says, not now. Too hard. Too early. Too late. Repeat this daily. I act when others hesitate. I push when others pause. I dominate by execution. Let's be honest. Many people fear execution. They fear failure. They fear exposure. They fear the results of their own actions. But fear is irrelevant. Action is superior. You cannot fail if you continue to execute. Failure is a lesson. Execution transforms lessons into power. The unbroken know that perfection is a trap. They do not wait for clarity. They act and clarity follows. They do and the path reveals itself. Repetition reinforces results. Every day of high-intensity, disciplined execution compounds. Every hour spent moving forward multiplies impact. Every completed task strengthens identity. This is the essence of executing beyond limits. You act when others hesitate. You persist when others quit. You finish when others give up. It's not about speed alone. It's about relentless consistency. It's about refusing to stop. It's about building momentum until your actions are unstoppable. Let's repeat again. I move when I don't feel ready. I act when it's uncomfortable. I execute beyond limits. Momentum is your ally. Fear is your opponent. Excuses are obstacles. Execution destroys all three. Remember, the unbroken do not wait for permission. They do not negotiate with circumstances. They shape their reality through action. Every day, every hour, every minute, you have a choice. You can drift, you can hesitate, or you can execute beyond limits. And the world adjusts to your power. Action is courage. Action is freedom. Action is the bridge between intention and results. Let's review the unbroken principles of execution. Decide quickly. Commit fully. Act immediately. Adjust relentlessly. Continue without pause. Do not wait for inspiration. Do not wait for others. Do not wait for clarity. Execution waits for no one. Every great achievement in history was built by people who acted when others hesitated. Every empire, every innovation, every breakthrough was built by relentless execution. And you are capable of the same. Repetition is final reinforcement. I move when I don't feel ready. I act when it's uncomfortable. I execute beyond limits. Say it. Say it again. Make it your mantra. Now, imagine the power this creates. Every day you execute beyond limits, your momentum compounds. Every task you complete increases your confidence. Every action you take expands your capacity. Your results multiply. Your life transforms. And the unbroken never stop. They do not pause for comfort. They do not negotiate with fear. They execute. They dominate by action. They win by persistence. They live by results. That's the key. So now it is your turn. Guard your attention. Remove the excuses. Commit fully. Act relentlessly. Momentum is waiting. Opportunity is waiting. Your life is waiting. Execute beyond limits. You've mastered focus. You've learned discipline. You've built a fortress around your attention. Now it is time to act without restraint, to push beyond doubt, to achieve what others only dream of. The unbroken do not hesitate. The unbroken do not negotiate. The unbroken execute. Repeat once more. I move when I don't feel ready. I act when it's uncomfortable. I execute beyond limits. And with that, you've unlocked the final lesson in unbroken mastery. You've conquered hesitation. You've trained discipline. You've protected focus. Now it is time to dominate your reality through relentless execution. The book ends here, but your execution begins now. Chapter 15. Live Unbroken. This is the final chapter, but it is also the beginning. Everything we've covered, the discipline, the focus, the execution, it all leads here. To living unbroken. To being someone who no circumstance, no setback, no person can bend. Someone who is steadfast, relentless, undeterred. This is not a title. This is a life. You have a choice. Every morning, you can wake and negotiate with fear. Or you can stand unshakable. Every day is an opportunity to live unbroken. That's the key. Living unbroken starts in the mind. The inner dialogue you have with yourself sets the tone for everything you do. Weak self-talk creates weak action. Decisive self-talk creates unstoppable momentum. Repeat this now. I am unbroken. I am unstoppable. I act when others hesitate. It is not about avoiding pain. It is not about escaping failure. It is about using everything, pain, fear, failure, as fuel. Life will hit you. It will test you. It will challenge every boundary you have. And this is exactly where the unbroken rise. When others crumble, you move forward. When others complain, you act. When others quit, you persist. You do not live unbroken by accident. It is a conscious choice. A series of decisions made consistently over time. Stop waiting for circumstances to change. Stop hoping people will validate your effort. Stop negotiating with hesitation. You don't need their permission. You don't need approval. You don't need luck. You have what you need already. Discipline, focus, action, execution. These are the tools of the unbroken. Let's break down what it truly means to live unbroken. Commit to your identity. The unbroken do not chase goals alone. They embody the identity of someone who finishes, someone who executes, someone who is disciplined even when it's inconvenient. Repeat this. This is who I am. I finish what I start. Guard your mind. Your attention is your fortress. Distractions are intruders. Weak thoughts are saboteurs. Protect your focus. Control your inner voice. Decide what occupies your mental space. And cut off anything that weakens you. Repeat, I control my mind. My mind serves me, not the other way around. Execute beyond limits. Ideas without action are meaningless. Dreams without execution are illusions. Push past hesitation. Push past fear. Push past comfort. Every step forward compounds. Momentum builds. Repeat, I act relentlessly. I execute beyond limits. Absorb lessons, not shame. Failure will happen. Mistakes will occur. But failure is an event, not a label. Extract lessons. Adjust. Continue. Do not internalize failure as weakness. Repeat, I learn. I adjust. I continue. Embrace pain as progress. Discomfort is the price of growth. Every challenge, every obstacle, every setback is training. Pain is feedback. Pain is temporary. Pain is the instrument of strength. Repeat, I pay the price. I grow stronger. Decide once, stand forever. Indecision is draining. Commitment restores power. When you decide and refuse to renegotiate with yourself, energy flows. You act. You persist. You dominate your day, your work, your life. Repeat, the decision is made. I do not waver. Living unbroken also means living in the present with responsibility. No blame. No excuses. No waiting for permission. You take what comes, learn, adjust, and continue. Every day is training. Every moment is a test. Every decision is a reflection of who you are. Repeat this mantra throughout your day. I do not wait. I do not hesitate. I do not falter. I live unbroken. Let's get practical. Morning rituals. Start your day with clarity. Prioritize your top 3 actions. Attack them first. Dominate before the world wakes. Evening reflection. Review your actions. Did you execute? Did you learn? Did you control your mind? Plan adjustments and prepare to repeat tomorrow. Micro decisions. Every choice, no matter how small, compounds. Make choices that reinforce your identity as unbroken. Accountability. You are responsible to yourself first. No excuses, no rationalizations. Your word to yourself is sacred. Living unbroken is not comfortable. It is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. And that's exactly why it works. Because the world is full of comfort seekers. The world is full of those who quit when it gets hard. The world is full of those who negotiate with their own hesitation. You are not one of them. Every day you live unbroken, you outwork, outlast, and outperform. Every day, you reinforce discipline, focus, and execution. Every day, you train your mind, your body, and your identity. Repeat once more. I am unbroken. I am unstoppable. I act when others hesitate. Let's reflect on the unbroken mindset. Control yourself first. You cannot control life until you control your thoughts and actions. Act, then adjust. Waiting for the perfect plan kills results. Execution creates clarity. Embrace struggle. Discomfort is growth. Pain is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Refuse to quit. Backup plans weaken commitment. Remove the option to fail. Force yourself forward. This is your life. Your rules. Your responsibility. No one else is coming to save you. No one else is responsible for your results. No one else can decide your identity for you. You have a choice. You can continue drifting, or you can choose to live unbroken, to embody discipline, to execute relentlessly, to guard your mind, to embrace pain, to learn from failure, to commit without hesitation. This is how the unbroken live. This is how they dominate life rather than being dominated by it. This is how they leave no room for excuses. This is how they achieve what others only dream of. The unbroken do not wait for permission. They do not wait for opportunity. They do not wait for courage to appear. They act. They execute. They persist. They rise. Repeat again and internalize it. I do not wait. I do not hesitate. I do not falter. I live unbroken. Every day you wake, you have a choice. Every action you take compounds into identity. Every decision reinforces your discipline. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. Every moment is a chance to live unbroken. This is the ultimate mastery. This is the culmination of every lesson in this book. Discipline, focus, execution, resilience, they all converge here. And now it is your turn. Not tomorrow. Not next week. But choose to live unbroken. Act like the person you were meant to be. Refuse to compromise. Refuse to negotiate with hesitation. Refuse to let fear dictate your path. You are unbroken. You are unstoppable. You are relentless. And every day you prove it. This is your life. Live it unbroken. You've conquered every hesitation, every distraction, every doubt. You've learned discipline. You've executed beyond limits. Now it's time to carry it into every breath, every action, every day. Live unbroken. You have been tested. You have been tired. You have been hurt. And yet, you are still here. That means something. Being unbroken does not mean life went easy on you. It means you refuse to stay down. From this moment forward, stop asking for easier conditions. Start becoming stronger. You will feel doubt again. You will feel pain again. And when you do, remember this. Strong people do not wait for relief. They move with resolve. Your challenge is simple and non-negotiable. Do one hard thing today, on purpose. No delay. No excuse. Stay strong. Stay focused. And whatever happens next, never give up.